Do you view yourself as a whistleblower?
I hate that term in a lot of ways because you feel like you're doing something that is disloyal. I don't feel like I'm being disloyal to the Air Force. I feel like I'm being loyal to the Air Force by helping us solve a huge problem.
For the past 4 years, Colonel Don Christensen has been on the front lines fighting sexual assaults in the U.S. military, serving as the Air Force's chief prosecutor and racking up major convictions until he started talking to members of Congress about roadblocks being thrown in his way by military commanders.
One of the dirty little secrets of military justice is what happens in that courtroom. The victim is sitting on the witness stand telling the jury what happened. And she looks out over that courtroom. She looks behind her rapist, and she's going to see her commander sitting behind her rapist. She's going to see her first sergeant sitting behind her rapist. She's going to see her squadron sitting behind her rapist. That's what we have to overcome.
So at their request, members of Congress request, you went up to the Hill, you briefed them, and then you get a call.
Yes.
Telling you what?
Initially telling me that I wasn't to do it anymore. That they didn't want me talking to members of Congress, they didn't want me talking to the media. They did back off because the law's not on their side, but the initial conversation was stop, don't do it again.
We asked the Air Force for comment, and an official told us that Christensen was never directed not to talk to members of Congress or the news media. He was told not to go in uniform if he was sharing his personal opinion. Christensen, who comes from a family of Air Force veterans dating back 70 years, is now speaking out on camera for the first time, describing a military justice system that he says is stacked against victims, and detailing one high-profile case that derailed his career, prompting him to retire.
There was a USO concert at Aviano Air Base, Italy, in March of 2012. At that concert, there were 4 pilots, including Jay Wilkerson and a couple other pilots, and then Kim Hanks, the victim. Kim was new to Aviano. She was a civilian contract physician's assistant, new to the Air Force, first experience. At some point, the 7 of them decide that they're going to leave and go to a pub downtown.
The women end up in the home of Lieutenant Colonel James Wilkerson, a decorated F-16 pilot, and his wife.
At the end of the evening, Kim is left there at the house with the Wilkersons. She goes to sleep, and about 3 that morning, she wakes up. She has the sensation that she's being touched. She feels pain in her vagina. And she turns over and she sees Wilkerson in bed with her.
So you had a Air Force colonel, a decorated pilot, accused of sexually assaulting Kim Hanks.
Yes.
You take that to trial and you win.
Yes.
He's convicted.
He's convicted despite the support that he received from numerous commanders, 4-star generals, 2-star generals, 1-star general. After the trial, Wilkerson and his supporters started a campaign to get the case overturned. They went on a smear tactic, attacking the prosecution, attacked me. They claimed that I was committing prosecutorial misconduct, that I screamed at witnesses, that I bullied witnesses. Interestingly enough, it wasn't the defense lawyers doing this, it was Wilkerson's buddies.
The old boys network.
Yes, including, again, a 4-star general.
That man, Lieutenant General Craig Franklin, was then the commander at Ramstein Air Force Base in Germany, a position that gave him the power in the military code of justice to overturn the court-martial verdict.
He throws out the conviction. He does it without talking to the prosecution. He does it without talking to the victim.
Were you angry?
Yes, very angry. My reaction was that this was the final straw, that we were going to lose military justice, that Congress would be outraged. I was outraged, and that this was the death knell to the justice system as we knew it.
Franklin's decision to let Wilkerson off scot-free got the attention of Congress as hearings were held and calls were made to overhaul the military justice system.
But if the convening authority is the only decision maker of whether a case goes to trial or proceeds, and the only decision maker about whether to overturn a case, well then all that training and all those excellent lawyers and prosecutors you have don't mean a difference.
When Christensen started briefing members of Congress about changes he believes needed to be made to the system, his superiors made it clear they weren't happy.
Now, you also got forwarded an email chain.
Yes. What it said was, it would be nice if Christensen could put aside his personal opinions and go to the Hill and support commanders.
Christensen says he didn't put aside his personal opinions and reported to members of Congress. Then he received a downgraded performance report.
I was given no explanation for why it was downgraded, but it was clearly because of Wilkerson and the aftermath. I knew they were sending me a message that they didn't want me in the Air Force anymore. I was being put out to pasture.
Having left the Air Force after 23 years, Christensen has now taken on a new role as the president of a civilian advocacy group, Protect Our Defenders. He says his mission is to force permanent change in the military justice system.
We have been hearing for years from everybody in the Pentagon, there is zero tolerance for sexual assault, and yet the problem continues. Why?
Yeah, it's easy to say we have zero tolerance. You know, words are cheap. The reality is that for every time we say zero tolerance, we have a victim that's quieted from reporting. Every time we say zero tolerance, we have commanders who are supporting the accused who have committed rape or sexual assault.
Christensen and Protect Our Defenders are backing a bipartisan bill by New York Democratic Senator Kirsten Gillibrand, with support from conservative Republicans like Rand Paul and Ted Cruz, that would take key prosecution decisions out of the hands of military commanders, replacing them with independent professional prosecutors.
We need a professional justice system. Our victims deserve better, someone who's accused of a crime deserves better, and the American society deserves better.